Wondering what is growth trajectory for big stage sound systems? Is there now a demand for compact line arrays and smaller shows? Or what percentage of the rental industry is big sound and how many big ticket shows take place in India each year? This panel discussion on the future of live sound in big ticket events will give an understanding of the ROI. Should they invest in a big line array or on big sound? Should rental companies have 4 or 5 compact line arrays or should they have a big one? I would like to invite on stage Dr. Rajesh Khade, sound design and optimization engineer, our moderator for the session. Along with him, I would also like to invite our rest of the panelists, Mr. Manish Mavani, founder director at Sound and Light Professionals, and Tony Sawyer, head of application engineering, Generation Navy. Along with him, Georgallis, director of product management, performance audio at Harman Professional Solutions. Please, audience, give a round of applause for all our panelists. I would also like to invite Mr. Dsouza, founder and managing director of Sound.com. While all our panelists are here, I would like to give a quick introduction of all of them. Dr. Rajesh Khade is presently a sound design and optimization engineer. The doctor prefix isn't just from having a PhD in music or sound engineering, but he is a medico with an MBBS degree and have about 10 years of working experience as a medical officer. Looking at his drive for educational Rational Acoustics USA, the makers of industry standard system analysis platform SMART appointed him as the SMART official trainer for the Indian subcontinent in 2018. Mr. Manish Mavani, founder director at Sound and Light Professionals, is passionate for music and has a business-minded nature that helped him set up an audio rental company 15 years ago with shared dedication, hard work, and a drive to constantly upgrade and innovate the company. SNL Pro has now grown with close to 60 employees and have spread their services with audio, trussing, rigging, special effects, and lighting. I would also like to introduce Mr. Dsouza, the founder and managing director of Sound.com, a boutique audio company based in Mumbai. Warren's passion for audio and music has evolved far beyond sound, equipment, and musical instruments. Warren's specialization in design and integration of turnkey sound systems is intently followed by professionals and aspirants in the field of live sound engineering, as well as event managers and production professionals. We have here Georgallis, Director of Product Management, Performance Audio, and at Harman Professional Solutions. George led the development of several scalable systems within the touring audio space, including the VTX, A-Series, B-Series, and the newest SRX 900 series of powered line array products. System sizes ranging from small venues to the largest stadiums and arenas, many of which have won several industry accolades. Last but not the least, I would also like to introduce Tony Sawyer, Head of Application Engineering, Generation AV. Tony has over 35 years in audio, of which 2 decades are in live and install. Bands include Metallica, EDC, Tomorrowland, Andre Buckley, Green Day, Three Doors Down, Pink Floyd, Live Earth, MTV Islands, festivals, and everything in between. Tony's main expertise is the sound engineering for large events and venues. Please, audience, give a round of applause for all our panelists. Thank you so much, sir, for coming here. We may now begin the session.
You want me to use this or this mic? Anything, okay. So, hi everyone. I'm too loud. Hello everyone. So, firstly, let's give a big round of applause to the experience that we have here. Like, it really deserves a big round of applause. Secondly, I just want to ask, how many of you are engineers? How many of you are rental company owners? And if there's something else, both. Okay, because you are there, I'm going to ask you, what is the reason that you are here? What is it that you...
Because 10 years I'm running a company and I don't know anything when I come inside. So these are my people inspired me, and now I'm here. Just need to see them, and I want more knowledge from them, tips from them as an engineer point, and as well as a company owner. Yeah.
So I get that you are saying it from an engineer's perspective and also from a company owner's perspective. So as you can see, the topic says that it's a panel discussion on the future of live sound in big events. We will, by the end of this session, we will have an idea onto the commercial aspect and also on the technical aspect of what goes into big events and what are the, the necessary things that you need to have. Before I do that, I would want to first quantify what do we call a big ticket event. And I would want to start with Warren sir by asking him, what do you think is a big ticket event in India at least?
Hi guys. Let's say a big ticket event is something that where you're throwing sound over 350 to 800 feet. And there are mega events, so you even throw audio far beyond that. And predominantly, most of the shows that happen in India, you throw sound maximum around 250 feet with the main array. And the moment you start doing bigger gigs, it starts going into the distances of 500, 600, 700 feet. So if that to generalize it in a very simple synopsis, that would be called a big ticket event. Yeah.
I would also like to ask this question to Tony. What do you qualify as a big ticket event according to you?
I think most large-scale systems is very varied depending on the country you're in. A big ticket here is you work on huge distances. But in some other countries, a big ticket event is going to be somewhere which you're throwing 60 meters or 200 feet. And that would be classified. So I think it's very flexible and very varied based on the country that you're in. India, you have huge, because you have populations. But I would say most, even the smaller cities and smaller islands and stuff like that, 150 meters, which is, 450 feet, give or take, is probably as big as you're going to get. You typically don't go beyond that.
Okay, so I think even in, considering India and also the international market, we are looking at somewhere around 450, 500 feet, covering that big an area.
Unless you go to simply like Glastonbury and other stuff like that, I think that's probably the extreme.
Cool, now that we have quantified what a big ticket event is, what do you think is the right box size to work for these events? I know it's a very straightforward question, but I would still like you to answer that.
That's a big question. How big of a PA do you use? The one thing I have learned is that over the traveling around the world is that the requirements for sub count is somewhat neglected in most countries. But yeah, I think it's sub count is dependent on content. If you're doing an EDC festival or you're doing a dance music festival, the sub count and top count is very, very different. Delay towers are in a different position. Delay towers at 60 meters and that's it. If you're doing a classical, then it changes. So it's really, there's no hard rule.
Like
genre specific, I think is the correct way to put it.
Let's say, okay, genre specific, I agree on that. But just if we have to quantify whether a big size box or a medium size box or a small size box, does a big ticket event ask for a big size box, or you can do with a smaller box also?
No, I think you need the mass of a big size box.
You need the big size box.
Yeah, I think a big size box. Big ticket events nowadays. There's the double 12 is the fashionable box. I think it's because it's more versatile. So rental houses prefer it because the ROI on it is going to be, they can do smaller gigs with it and bigger gigs. So I think the double 12, it seems to be the synopsis now of what people are using. They're just then adding to that,
George, I would like to address the next question to you. According to you, what is the difference and what is the reason one would go for a big size and a small size box, and what are the factors that as a rental owner someone needs to consider while choosing that?
Yeah, there's many different ways to look at it from as far as the size of the box. I agree with the rest of the group that usually for the large scale events you probably need a dual 12 and above, what we consider to be large format. boxes. So ultimately, whether it's a compact or mid-sized box, it's going to be up to the company in figuring out what the type of shows it is they're doing, the size of the rooms, the budget, sometimes the weight that can be done on a roof, the power available for a gig and things like that. So depending on what the company tends to specialize in and the type of customers, they can choose to go with a certain system or another system.
Considering only a big ticket event, just considering that.
So for the big ticket events, meaning which size? Yeah, I agree. It's dual 12 and above for the big ticket events, yeah.
So you're saying it has to be a big size box, always?
Yeah, I mean, typically these events require very high output in terms of high frequency generate output, and then the bigger boxes tend to have more high frequency drivers and therefore be more appropriate for the large events. But then more important than the size of the system is actually the deployment, right? So yes, one is the system size, but then the correct deployment for a given venue and deciding where to put delay towers, how to deploy those large boxes. So I think you can go either way. You can take a big box and then deploy it in a certain way, where it might not be as effective as a smaller box, and deploy it in a different way.
I think the gist that we are getting is if you want to do a big ticket event, you need a big size box. So I think I had a question which I was going to address to Manish and ask him that, what would you recommend people to go for, a big size or a small size box, and why? But I think it's self-answered that if you are going, or if you're planning to go for big ticket events, you need to buy a big size box. Let's say now we have bought a big size box, and the next question is to you, Manish. How much time do you think it takes to actually get the return on investment on that kind of a big size investment box?
So, I have a bit of contradictory answers to what people have spoken till now.
Okay.
But I'll go with what you've asked me. So, how much time it takes for you to get your ROI, that's an homework that you need to do. Okay, it depends on what region you are in. It depends on what is your client base, or what is your target base after getting in the big box. Is it something that you've been regularly falling short of, and that's the reason why you want to go for big box? So many factors. Like I'll give my example. We do a lot of large events. We consistently do venues of over 200-300 meters, which is like more than 600-750 feet with multiple delays. So there are common challenges that one has to keep in mind, like what are the structures that you get to rig in? Like, everything boils down to a lot of economics in terms of the client budget versus the time versus the weather versus so many factors. So yeah, it's very easy to say that a big ticket box with a big box, but you need to factor the other things before you put that money down. Okay, and also, are you targeting to do events which are specifically brand-driven, rider-friendly, or you're doing events which is not important with a specific brand, but you can use any kind of brands, and it's the audio coverage which is important. So those are the factors that you need to keep in mind before choosing your brand, type of your box, planning your ROI.
Still, I think we didn't get the answer that how much time does it take, right? Warren, would you like to go in depth on answering how much time does it take to get the return on investment?
I don't think that there's a fixed barometer. It's really what's your appetite, which brand you buy. You can buy unicorn brand. It can averagely take you 3 years. It can take you 5 years. And if you've done a great job, you can even probably wrap it up in 3 years to 2.5 years. And there's sometimes people make mistakes and they are not ever able to recover their money on it. That's because you have to see it holistically. Who's your team? What's your infrastructure? Where are you demographically? Right? You could be in probably the Northeast and struggle with a very expensive sound system because there's not that much of work. And then it also depends whether you're a regional vendor or a national vendor. There are a lot of guys who buy systems, very expensive systems, but they don't do gigs out of their state. And then, in the case of Manish and me, the reason why we are able to do work out of the state is because we have such a large quantity of what we have. We can take care of our domestic market as well as we can tour across the country. Or we can even do leapfrog tours where there is a gig happening in Ahmedabad and the same artist is the next day probably in Kolkata. And then you still have to have the width and the depth to be able to do your hotel ballroom show in Mumbai or do that very bespoke event for a client that's important to you. So you start building your ROI based on everything, your infrastructure, your team, the kit, how well have you invested, how aggressively or how you have, a lot of people do not take risk. Some are risk averse, some are. And then if you have a very strong foundation of a good team and decent infra and a very good back office team, you can take more risk. Because at the end of the day, our equipment's a pile of dumb metal without people. It's like you have the computer, but there's nobody to run the software, right? So your ROI can be also timing. You could have bought the most expensive system and then COVID hit. You could have probably not realized that there's going to be revenge consumption, just as like last season where everybody was busy, but they had no kit. Neither they were getting electronics nor spares. So I think the game here is now the guy who plans for today is the guy who will make the ROI tomorrow. That's what I can say.
Agreed. Very well answered again. We don't have an exact time frame, but that's because there's no exact time frame and it just, you buy a big size box and you are going to get the return is not guaranteed because we have other factors that are really, really important. And planning, as you said, is very important. Also, what I have experienced with people is that people are like, I want to buy the biggest box. I want to buy more boxes. I want to buy a branded system. And Indian market, I feel, is very much driven by a brand. George, I want to ask you, how is the international market driven? Is it very brand specific or there are other brands which are not amongst the top 3 brands and we still have shows happening on them, like big shows happening on them?
I think for the most part, the tier 1 market is brand based, and I think companies making large investments, they usually want to go with brands that they have good reputation and they're going to be in the market for a long time. They're safe investments. I think there is the performance aspects of different brands and whether someone prefers one brand versus another. But I would say probably the tier 1 market tends to go with the bigger brands, the more reputable brands. That said, there's a lot of brands out there and a lot of good sound systems. So it's not just the main brands. We see a lot of different brands in the market.
Thank you for that answer. The next thing that I want to direct at Tony is that we all end up buying systems, whether big or small. Is that just having a big system enough which guarantees your company's success?
No.
What other factors would you recommend?
You have to look at rental market as 2 points. You have your international market, you've got your domestic rental market. So I think as a rental owner, you need to focus on whether you're looking to go to a international standard level market or you're going to take care of your domestic rental market. And quite rightly said earlier, if you plan, you need to know your focus because that gives you your target of where you're going to earn your money back. I mean, if you're going to be 95% domestic rental market and only 1 or 2% of your revenue is coming from the international market and you're investing heavily into the international market, which may not be needed. As you got any one of the top tier brands, it could be top, as George was saying, you've got your top tier brands and manufacturers. Domestically, internationally, the ROI typically, example in Europe, they would look at a 10-year ROI. That's the life expectancy of a system. But it's very, very different I've known customers, as you quite rightly said, customers that have returned it in 2 years because they've got the right people behind it, they've got the right engineers, they've got the right customers. But I've known people who've got 10 years later are still paying off for a sound system they've had 10 years later. So I think a rental company needs to look at two. The thing is, are you going to target that 5% or 2% market driven at the international market, or are you going to go for your domestic rental market? Then domestic rental markets tend to be a bit more lenient on the brands. But the internationals are pretty hard and driven about the way they want stuff because they need the consistency from India to Japan to Tokyo or wherever it is. So it's about consistency here. But the domestic rental market is a little bit more feasible, a little bit more flexible. So if you're in that market, it gives you a bit more opportunity to design stuff.
Right. Do you have any question on that? It seems you are thinking, "Arey, kya karna chahiye karke?" Not yet? Okay. Apart from that, yes, just investment, and you need to understand as a owner what market you are targeting is what idea I'm getting from this discussion, that your market, the kind of shows that you want to do, the market you are targeting, the kind of traveling you're going to do with it is very, very important rather than just having, big brands. Apart from boxes, what are the other factors, as I asked Tony, according to you, Manish, what are the other factors that are much more important than having a good box? Yes, a good team, but again, I am sure there are other financial and other logistic aspects that one needs to think of.
So, I'll talk about me and our company. We've had a very organic growth. We've taken about 22 years to be where we are today. First 5 years was as good as nothing. And about 15 years back, when I used to go to the banks to raise money, I've paid about anywhere between 18% to 21% interest. Okay? And back then, there were no brands which would offer you credits. Everything was pay upfront and then you get the delivery. As of today, I at times feel there's a demand-supply mismatch, especially pre-COVID. So I felt there was much more supply than demand. So it kind of also tells you first see what the demand is in your region before investing into anything. Whether you're buying a small box, medium box, big box, whether you're buying a microphone or a console, first study how many times are you going to use it and at what price. You look at what is that product that is being offered by others currently. And then you automatically will come to know whether you can recover the money for that or no. Other few things which Warren said is also extremely important. You need to have a lot of process, have a lot of infrastructure in your company. What I mean by that is you need to have a strong warehousing team, you need to have a lot of back-end things to prep, to plan, and then reach on your show site. All these things cost a lot of money. It needs time, it needs experience, and it doesn't come overnight. So just because someone's trying to push you XYZ amount of system or XYZ amount of box, or just because you've gone and heard a system somewhere and you really liked it, may not be the best way to choose that you want to buy that system. So, it's two different aspects.
Yeah, I think everyone needs to think, I don't remember what it is said in Hindi properly. But yeah, we need to see how much is our appetite and then accordingly, not just appetite, I think how much is it that we can bear if things go wrong, and then decide what path we have to go on to. I am very short of questions, to be very frank.
So, also, like when you're calculating your ROI, just don't look at the rental versus the system that you have. You also look at adding into your P&L. There should be a pre-P&L for your project, and there should be a post-P&L for your project. What I mean to say is, if you're looking at one event, you need to add things like insurance, your back office crew, your transport crew, a lot of things. Just don't look at what are you getting for that show versus what is it that you're spending on the show. There is a lot of spending that you do to just keep your company afloat, to keep your company going. Whether it's your chartered accountant's cost, or whether it's XYZ taxes that you pay, or there's XYZ of repair maintenance that you do. There are so many things. Add that into your per show cost is when you'll realize that what is it that you're taking home.
Warren, would you like to add something to this?
I think I can echo what he's saying because we have a concept of what is our fixed cost and what's our variable cost, right? Your fixed cost is your cost you pay every month. That includes even your electricity, your rent, your CA fees, your audit fees, your whatever you're doing, right? And then you have your variable cost is show specific. An average outstation show for any sound guy, his production cost is 35% approximately of his total billing. So if you charge, even say for example, let's take an Indian number of 10 lakhs for a job, you'd spend 3.5 lakhs only in trucking, transport, hotels. And what we don't do in India is audit the cost of time. Even your time is very important. Your prep day, you take one whole day to prep your gear. Like when Manish and me may probably be doing any Arijit shows or any big artists like Diljit or something, right? It's a one-day prep. It's one day just to empty all that gear into the godown, right? So the cost of time is very, very, very important. And this is why when you add all this up, you will realize how small your margin ultimately becomes. And what are we all working for? We are working for our bottom line. Because from your bottom line, you can buy capital goods, which is equipment. And it's the equipment that earns you money along with your people. So if you can't do this math right, you will see the differentiation in your company and any other company. And not because that guy's got brand A and this guy's got brand B, or that guy's got this and he's got that. The differentiation is going to be the economics, because the balance sheet does not lie at the end of the day.
Agreed. That's really good insight into a working of a system, because I don't think so. A lot of people out here thought that, actually we have to think this through. We only have to think, acha bada lena hai ki chota lena hai. So yeah. Now I am really short of questions, very frankly, but there's something that I wanted, like if I decide on starting a rental company, or if I have a small rental company and if I'm looking to grow, what should be my approach to it? And I think, George, you would like to answer that? Your approach into choosing what should I do, apart from whether you're going domestic or international and what kind of gigs you are doing.
Meaning in what to invest?
I didn't get it.
What was the question?
If I've started a new company, I want to progress ahead. And I want to make a choice on the kind of box that I need to go for. Let's say whatever model or brand of speaker I need to go for, apart from my own financial budget and the zone that I'm working in, like considering the kind of gigs that I'm going to get. What are the other factors that I should thoroughly think about? From a technical perspective, not from a financial perspective.
Yeah,
actually.
I mean, from the technical point of view, there's always the performance and all the aspects of the system. But as I said before, one of the things to look for is the scalability of that solution. For example, can you grow with the system? If that's your first solution, you should probably look at something that you can grow into a much bigger system. A lot of the cost of the sound systems, for example, are the amplifiers or the infrastructure of the systems. So you probably want to invest in a solution where if you do end up with a small system of company A, B, or C, since you have the amplifiers and some of the infrastructure, you can easily grow that system up from there and continue growing your company and continue investing in the same type of gear, the same infrastructure, and making the company bigger and have options from that original investment. So I would say probably number one thing to look at from the sound system point of view is to look for something that you can grow and make it bigger and not having to start from scratch again for the next step and invest in a brand new platform, brand new amplifiers, and all that.
Okay, I think something like start with a smaller format box and then slowly grow as your company grows, go on to the bigger format or something like that?
There's nothing wrong with starting with the small systems. It's just look at the investment and say, okay, I will start small. I have inspirations to go to a much bigger system eventually. And you just need to look at an investment where you can expand and not having to start all over again if you want to go to the next step up.
Okay, makes sense, makes sense. I'm going to move on to the audience. At this point, anyone has any question?
Thank you for the opportunity, Dr. Rajesh Khade. My point of view in your last question is this. I think we are from the Northeast India. We can't grow from one good brand to a much better brand so suddenly. It takes quite a lot of years. We start from a scratch and we reach to one level good international brand. And from that one good international brand to jump into a much better brand, it takes a lot of time. My point is, we earn this much, but the rate of that much higher brand is getting higher so fast. So the bridge cannot be, we can't catch the race. Secondly, I want to add to the last point that you said, how to start the sound system. I mean, if I were to start something from a scratch, my point is this for the younger people, I may say that, start not small, but start not big also. First of all, what is important is that find a guru or an advisor. It's not that you just go to one brand and one guy in a shop tell you buy this, that, and that will solve the problem.
So I think you should be on the panel.
No, sir. Thank you. My point is like when we have a guru, we start, I may say that let us do this and that. First of all, it's not about market. It's about a good brand and then a very, very good advice. One trusted guy. Suppose I am the one guy, maybe one of my friends or my relatives, I can advise him nicely. He doesn't have to start with a one good digital desk or something like that. But he can start with a one very, fine desk, capable of holding a small band in a wedding or some kind of a small feed here and there, kind of about one basketball crowd. What system I know? So the best part is to find a guru who knows all kind of system in the world. That is my point. Thank you.
I thought you had a question there to ask one of us. He gave the answer to his own question. Anyone else from an engineer's perspective? Who are other rental owners? I only saw your hand. Any more rental owners here? Yes. Do you have any questions in terms of?
Hello. Yeah. So actually, an issue that I'm facing currently, I operate out of Goa. We've been operating for the past 3 months. And Goa is a very brand conscious market. The demand for a JBL system is very high. But we walked in with an EXO system. So I was wondering if you have any advice in terms of pushing a different brand in a market like that.
Warren, you would like to answer that? His question is that you got his question? Yeah. Do you want to address it?
Which timeline are you talking about? You're talking about currently you invested in EXO or this happened 3 years ago?
No. We've been operating for just 3 months now.
3 months.
Our system
okay.
is, we've got the GOS 12 and the RS 18s.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I think any market is brand conscious, okay? You just walk into a place and people just want a Mont Blanc pen and they don't care, right? Or they want a Armani shirt. Every kid on the block also knows what brands are. And I don't think it is specific to Goa. It's specific to any part of the world. Now, when you say you come into the market with a different product, I think that's something that you should not be even thinking about. If you come into a market and you want to be a game changer, what is your different service provision that you're talking about? What are you going to bring to the table besides your product only? It's a product with the service, right? So how good is your team? How good is not just your PA, is your radios, your desk? how well dressed up are your staff, how polite are they, how well you respond to a client's question, how punctual you are on site, how responsive you are to the production person when he tells you to do something, and how quickly you get out of the room it's the whole experience, right? So when you, just like how you fly an airline, right? It's from the booking stage to the check-in stage to sitting into the aircraft to getting out, getting your baggage. If one thing is wrong in the whole thing, you know how you flag the airline, right? You'll complain. If even one thing is wrong in that whole process. So I think the PA is just one part of what you're doing. And in India, the biggest problem is that the first thing you ask somebody, they'll tell you that they have bought this brand of loudspeakers or that brand of They will never talk about how good their service is. They'll never talk about how big the depth of their team is, what are the training programs they have, what is their service provision. They will only talk about one thing, is what speaker they have and what console they have, and it ends there.
Anyone else has a question? Yeah.
Check. Yeah, I am from down south. There are two to three rental big tickets rental companies, and not one has a bigger system and one has a medial scape. I do get more inquiries on bigger systems to do a bigger show, because we do give I hope I do give a good service on it. I have a small rental company, which is almost 6 years old. So do you suggest for me to go to a bigger system, buy a bigger box, or see for 6 more months and then proceed? I do get inquiries almost 1 gig a month, maybe.
Manish, you want to ask?
So have you taken up out of that any job? If you got an inquiry once a month, have you taken that job up?
Yes. But I would take a job, get it from some other vendor, from some other company or some other state.
Sure. Yeah. So when you hired the system from some other company, you've still executed the job. Was the job done well?
The job was done well, but I used to take my staffs with me for a back-end work, but still there was a glitch in that rental company.
But the show happened.
The show happened.
You got paid for it?
Yes.
You made some money out of it? Yeah?
Yes.
So that's important that you made some money out of it.
Yes.
The glitch was, you need to go back and hunt where the glitch was. Was it your understanding the show less? Did you ask enough questions to your client? Did you know the show well? If you know the show well, did you plan it correctly?
Yeah.
If you planned it correctly, did you inform whatever you wanted from the company that you were renting it?
Yes.
Then where was the problem? Why was the glitch?
Glitch was from the company.
So they did not come prepared?
Yes.
So next
time... At the end of the day, the client blames me, not the rental company.
So you already know that they were under-prepared?
Yes.
Next time you do one thing, you go and prepare for them. Okay? Another thing is, are you worried of losing your customer to that company?
Yes.
You are worried about that?
Pardon? Sorry?
Are you worried about losing your customer to this big company?
No.
You're not worried about that. So that's it. You don't need to buy. Keep renting it from them and you still make money.
Yeah. That is there. But, as a rental company, and I do have a passion on sounds, and in down south, there is no such big system or who deploy such big shows. But there are a number of shows happening.
See, I'll tell you something. It's not about owning a big system. Warren said we go and do work all over the country. I'm saying there is more supply than demand, then why do we get called in other parts of the country? As of today, I'm doing a job in Goa. My trucks are getting loaded to go to Kerala. I'm doing a job in Chandigarh. There are systems everywhere, in all these cities. Why do we still getting called? Neither my cables are gold plated, nor my speakers have any diamonds in it. Why do we get called? You need to understand that. So if you're getting one job a month, that's 12 jobs in a year, do a plan. You see if you're investing XYZ amount of crores of rupees into the system, will you be able to recover it in 12 jobs? Or is it better that you rent it out 12 times and you still make a smaller money? Because with that big system, you need a big warehouse. With the big system, you need a bigger crew. You need to have trucks, insurance. Are you ready for all that?
Yeah, I guess so, pretty much. I'm still working on it. No, not that decided, just wanted...
I'm not discouraging you to buy.
No, definitely
Just
not.
think before buying.
I just came here to attend this, so I just need all your advice. I just wanted to know what it is. Thanks.
That was really nice question and a really good answer. I think there was one more person who wanted to ask at the back here.
Yeah, my question is more of a little technical. So we have been speaking about buying bigger boxes or medium size or smaller boxes. But unfortunately, a lot of rental companies in India do not have, while they're starting up, they do not have the funds to buy a new system, and they would probably go for a used system that someone already has been using for some amount of years. And speaking from a speaker, like the cone of the speaker perspective, a lot of people say you need to break in the cone, as in when you get a new cone which is straight out of the factory, you need to, use the cone for a certain amount of time for it to reach a, ideal situation where, or ideal place where you get the proper sound from the cone. So when buying a used system from a different company, let's say the company has their system well maintained, have never, abused the system in a way. So still while buying, what would you suggest would be the life of a system or the life of a speaker cone, and how it's been used, and how long can you sustain a business on a used system? And those kind of.
So I think so. You were trying, like, I've been a biker in my early days. It's like you were talking about like a piston which needs to run for a few hours and then it gets better.
Kind of, yeah.
I don't know. I think so. George would be a better person to answer this, but I've never heard of this.
So the more you use the speaker, it's paper cones, and the more you use it, the flexibility of the cone kind of matters. And of course, there is external factors such as dust, smoke, and all of that kind of, reduces the flexibility of the cone.
We'll make it less complicated because this is more like an offline thing.
Correct.
Okay. Running in of loudspeaker cones is redundant and over. Mm-hmm. There was a time when you bought a car, okay, and you had to drive it slow in the first few months. Correct. You buy a current generation car, you don't need to do that.
Okay.
Okay. So that is redundant and it's over, it's antiquated. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, the current matter that you actually, the first question that you asked was how do you start with a small system or you buy a second-hand system?
Correct.
Right? Now, let's put it to you this way. Everybody here in the room wants to get there very fast. Both Manish and me have averagely, our companies are around 24 to 25 years old. He said it in the beginning, his first 5 years were very difficult. Okay? But everybody wants to buy a branded big ticket PA system like overnight and expecting to be a leader in his region in 3 years or in 5 years. Believe me, you don't even see the light till the first decade.
Okay.
So, unless and until you are willing to pay the 2 to 3 decade game, you're going to be on the stage and you'll be sitting here in place of us, and then you will be talking about big ticket PA systems. Okay. Because you don't go to the big ticket PA system overnight. You start with the simple setup or somebody's second-hand setup.
Correct.
You build a customer base, you build a brand equity, you build a name around your regional market. You do better, then you get recognized nationally. Then you do extremely well, you get recognized internationally. It's a long drawn process.
Okay.
This is not a shot in the dark. Okay, because it's people, manpower, infrastructure, brick and mortar. If your staff leave you, they can't start a sound company overnight. It's not like an event manager, he can leave his agency and start an agency tomorrow. This is heavy metal. Lot of wood and lot of electronics. and people and very expensive. And also, it also depends where are you from, right? A guy in Delhi doesn't even pay 1/3 the rent the guys in Mumbai pay. You know?
Okay.
So you have to understand that for Manish and me to have 3 to 5 warehouses in Mumbai or in central Mumbai, it's like having a home in Fifth Avenue, New York.
True.
As against like a farm in Minnesota, you know?
Correct.
So it's like that way.
So, George, would you like to answer his question about the cone and everything, the technical aspect of it?
Yeah, I think in general there's nothing wrong with buying used sound systems as long as they're well maintained. You know exactly what you're buying, and you do your homework. You check the boxes. Systems definitely don't need to run for some time to reach their performance.
Okay.
They can perform 100% on day one, the minute you start using them. But let's say the worst case scenario, you have to recone some woofers to get them back to the original state. I don't think that's a big deal. And as far as the usage, it's not as much the years and how hard you drive the system these days. It's more about the environmental conditions,
The external
like
factors.
weather and dust and things like that. So cones under good conditions, they would last forever these days. Certainly 10 years in that range. And they are, to some extent, consumables and easy to replace. So you can replace them and make a system brand new again. So
Awesome. Yeah. Well, there are some of the brands which do not, get, like, as of now, we were just talking the supply and demand, where there's, post-COVID, there's a lot of demand, but the supply is kind of, you have like a 6-month waiting, you have like a year's waiting. In that phase, in that time of waiting, when you're waiting for your new, your spare parts to arrive, or you're waiting for your new system to arrive, what is that we can do with the current system that we already have, which has taken about already 12 years of, being out on the road, and you're setting it up every 2 days and you're taking it down. So is there something that we can do to, ensure that it's still working perfectly other than the whole environmental factor?
You're asking a question like, do you grease, do you oil your shutter every day kind of a thing? Is there a solution so that the speakers keep working perfectly again and again? Is that your question? Kind of?
Okay, let's just put it in a simple way. Let's say I buy a speaker which is 10 years been used.
Yeah.
So how long can I continue using that?
Is there a definite answer to that?
Is there an answer?
No, until it goes.
Until it's...
No,
okay.
yeah.
That's about it.
It's not like the old days when you say, oh, let's run this in, and now we're doing... Today's technology and drivers has changed exponentially.
Okay.
So
I would
there's no
say
need to
you
run
should
stuff
know your
anymore.
system.
Correct.
You should know your system, how long you've used it, how many times you've used it, how well have you maintained it, and what is it delivering as of today.
If it's been stuck outside in the rain for 6 months, then you know you've got a problem, that you are going to have a problem, then my suggestion is yes, throw some new cones in it, and you're good to go.
All right.
If you've taken care of it, then there should be no need to do that.
yeah. Maintenance is key in this
Maintenance,
case.
yeah.
And especially in harsh environments, right? So open the boxes often, clean the cones, check what's going on in there. And if you take good care of the gear, they're going to last for a long time. And going back to the ROI question, sound systems don't really go out of fashion very often, right? So they're a fairly safe investment. They can last for a long time as long as you take good care of them. So proper maintenance, and I think they can last for a very long time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
I saw there was one more question, but before that I have a question myself. So apart from ROI, apart from everything, we have been talking about team. And we have, I think you guys have team which has been with you for a very long amount of time. But for anyone who is about to start new, do we have people, or how easy it is to get people who are technically sound so that they can hire them and, move on from them? Currently in India, what do you think is the situation in terms of getting expertise?
So, I think so. It is always a challenge to find focused people, firstly. Education is one thing, and then comes the experience. So, it's almost impossible to find people who are well experienced want to jump jobs. So it's you hire 5 people and you'll find one good guy out of it. At least that's my personal ratio.
One more before I move on to Warren to answer the same thing. One more leading question to this is, how difficult is it to retain these people?
It's not difficult. If you look after them and if there is a growth that they see, if they see the company is progressing, they're progressing, they're there with you.
Warren, you want to take this a little more, elaborate on this?
Same question.
Same question, yes.
I think, see, whoever joins the audio industry, right, and especially to a sound, right, they are mad passionate about it. How many of you guys are passionate about sound? Raise your hands, right? We've got, there it is. You do this in a corporate event, half the people will put their hands up. If you tell them, are you passionate about insurance, you're not going to get 50% of them putting their hands up. And if all of them put their hands up, is because their brand manager is there. So we all signed up for this because we love sound, we love music, we love this industry. We like live shows, we like the adrenaline. This gives us a high, right? Just like it gives a DJ a high, it gives a musician a high. The guy who's wired at the other end of the snake also gets a high, right? And honestly, it's a better job than everybody else's, right? Sitting in front of a desk, computer, looking at an Excel sheet, right? So what have you signed up for, right? Now, such people you have to be very careful about, because they have fought against their parents to do something non-standard and they are come to work for you. So you have a greater responsibility to look after them. You have a greater responsibility to mentor them and teach them. And you have to lead by example. Now, if you are not focused like how Manish is about what he's doing and how focused he is about his brand image, and the kind of jobs he's doing, then they are not going to work for him, right? And likewise for me. So leadership here is a very, very important thing. You have to be a leader yourself in order to hire more leaders. Because the followers will come and go. The leaders will stay with you.
Well said. Tony, I would also want your perspective on how internationally does this change? Like, you have specific teams who works with you always, or you just hire freelancers?
I think it's very country specific. And that's a difficult one because manpower has become so expensive, especially in Europe and around the world, whereas a lot of rental houses don't see that the financial part of it, and what you came to earlier, there has to be some form of gateway to say, is it viable for me to pay this much money to have a guy permanently? Because the pool is also larger of skilled set. And there's a larger pool to play with. That is an advantage. When you have a smaller pool of experienced people, you have to learn to take care of those people. And you will, it's education, it's process, and they stay with you because there's development. But in Europe, there's a lot of, in Europe around the world, there's, especially European side, not the Asian countries, but in Europe, there's such a large pool of medium guys, not necessarily good, but medium guys. So you can get a PA now. PA costs, your ROI on PA, forget it in Europe. It's just a waste of time. UK is a complete disaster for rentals. I mean, you can go and rent today in England with a technician. You're paying 100 and 200 pounds a day, give or take. And you're renting 16 tops, subs with amps, everything for 400 pounds a day. It's that destroyed. But there is a pool, so you don't find a lot of people. They will have a head of audio. Rental houses will have a head of audio. And then they will take their head of audio, which is the management core, and then they will freelance out as they need, when they need it. And it's a great way if you're looking to make money, then if you, rather than having the manpower permanently on board with you, but you need to have a good pool of resources to do that.
Yep. I want to put another leading question to you, Manish, regarding this. Like, we are seeing a change in the Indian scenario where I think we have more of freelancers coming in. So what do you think about that? Like, in European countries, I think that is the norm where you have more freelancers doing your job. Do you think India will change towards that?
So as he said, it's very country specific. In India, a rental company or a sound touring company is just not an equipment provider. They're a solution provider. Okay? People come to us, they don't ask us, if somebody comes to me and says, I want sound for this many people or that many boxes, no. I don't take that job. I understand the project. After that, as Warren said, it's prep, deliver, pack up, and come back. So from logistics to labor to technical crew to system engineer, you're doing everything. So we are more of a solution provider and not just a box hiring company. At least in India, I haven't seen, besides you would be one of the first freelance system engineers that I see, or maybe one or two before this, but most of the companies, even here, would have their own technical crew. So basically, that's the answer.
Do you see this changing in the upcoming years? Not really.
It will change, and what you're saying is right, that you will see more and more freelancers because there are more companies now in India, more rental companies in India, and there are less system engineers. So the system engineers have more opportunities to go and do jobs at a better price across the country. So that trend will kick in.
What about financial? Because this is again about the finances of running a rental company. Do you think financially it will make more sense in India to do that?
So if there is a pool of system engineers that are easily available to any rental company, then it's always better to hire them for that project rather than having the liability of having them 30 days a month, whether you have the job or no, you're still paying them. So if you have enough of people, why not?
Warren, what do you think on this?
So, see, we always follow the West, probably 15 to 20 years later. And now you've seen post-COVID a lot of guys going into the freelance world. And this is just going to grow and grow. Whereas previously, the sound company had the FOH engineer, the monitor engineer, and everything, right? And then slowly it broke out to just the FOH engineers being freelance. Then suddenly the monitor consoles showed up a decade ago. And then the rental house used to provide the monitor engineer. Then it came to a time when monitor engineers started traveling with the artists. Now slowly, in time, as the artist grows, even the systems engineer may travel with the artist, depending on the production. So this is all where your industry is evolving, And then there are times where you have a systems engineer from the rental house as well as a systems engineer from the artist entourage. Okay? So I see that this is happening, and I think a healthy combination of companies having in-house teams and there being a healthy combination of being a lot of freelance as well as companies internally having their own teams will be beneficial to this industry. I don't think that it's going to it's like an ecosystem, So this ecosystem will get more and more evolved. Now there are some guys, for example, who are doing RF only, just like you are the few and far between doing systems. There are guys who are doing RF also. I remember you patched me on to some people. And that's refreshing because when there is that one job where a regional company needs to do a very complicated RF related job, he obviously can't hire somebody from my team or Manish's team. So you have this pool of this one or two guys who's doing this. So this is how the industry really evolves. Yeah.
So I think even for the new vendors who are coming up, I think investing could be a good idea because there are people that you can hire on a freelance basis to get your job done with having more people, and I think that is where we are evolving.
Yeah, guys, you can hire Rajesh Khade. He's a freelance systems engineer.
No, in terms of investment is what I'm looking at. So, because I see a lot of people going for bigger systems.
Wait, let us do a hard sell. He can also mix bands and he also can do RF.
No, I can't do that. I definitely can't do that.
nowadays, a lot of powered system are coming out, right? Yeah. So in indoor, it's fine. I know a lot of benefits are there. But when it's come to outdoor system, outdoor concert and all, medium, I'm a medium kind of sound guy. Medium level of investment, not too high, three-way system and all. So should we invest on powered or passive? Because in South India, not in South India, all over the India, the weather, we cannot predict anything. I remember, Warren sir, you came to Coimbatore for Anirudh show. Before day, it was completely rain. Everything was wet. And next day, the show happened, right? So what I'm using an RCF HTL20, HTL30 and all. So I don't know, I can run in the rain or something. We have to cover it up and all. So it's, is it safe? Or what is the solution, or how to protect the system? That's what.
Yeah, I think powered speakers and outdoors is always a challenge and always something that tends to get debated. I think if done correctly, they can be used outside. I think there's things like rain covers and proper power connectors these days that are fully IP rated to get wet. So from the moisture point of view and being exposed, I think some of the newer systems can handle that. That said, I think there's a lot of other aspects of the outdoors, including dust and how much rain and those conditions. So I think it's really up to the specific situation. I don't want to generalize and say, yes, they can be used outside, but the newer power systems are designed to be able to be used outside under the correct conditions.
Cool. Any more questions? No? So you have one more? Okay. We have 1 more minute for that.
Yeah. So in newer console, like for, let's take M32 or SQ7 on the Allen and Heath, there are things like sample rates comes in the system, right? 48K and 96K. Is it really, worth to see that in live sound, 96 and 48? It makes a lot of difference or what? I don't know. In live sound production, how much it, because in advertisement they say 96K and a lot of processing and all. How much it really matters when it's to come to live sound production?
Have you ever blindfoldedly been able to tell the difference between a 96K or a 48K if I switched it live?
No, I didn't. That's why I asked you.
So there you got the answer.
Great. Okay. I think this is the end of this particular panel discussion. Let's have, again, a big round of applause for the experience here. Thank you so much for coming and for your questions over here.
Thank you so much, panelists, for being here. I would now like to request Mrs. Smita Rai to hand over a token of appreciation. Audience, please give a round of applause for our panelists. Dr. Rajesh Khade. Mr. Manish Mavani. Audience, please give a round of applause for such a wonderful session. Mr. Warren Dsouza. Mr. Georgallis. Mr. Tony Sawyer. Thank you so much, panelists, for giving us such a wonderful session, giving us your time, and such an informational, knowledgeable session. Thank you so much.